Hello everyone, welcome to once again another exciting YouTube tutorial on R programming. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, we really plead your indulgence to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also comment and share our posts to friends and families who are interested in building up their skills in data analysis or data science with R. So it's really has been an amazing journey with you. Thank you for joining today. Let's get it started. So on our last video, we looked at data cleaning and we're able to categorize data cleaning into two unique cleaning functions. And like I mentioned, you might not really find these differences, this side-by-side comparison in any R handbook. But this is the way I can make data cleaning look very simple and easy for you to follow through. So on our last video, we looked at 5 independent cleaning functions, and we said that this dependency was based, or is actually based on a function known as mutate, and which we'll look at in this video. We looked at clean names on our last video, which we said is used to standardize variable names. We looked at rename, which we said is used to change variable name. And then we said select, which is select desired variables, and we said select works in 4 major ways. Either you select desired variable, deselect unwanted variable, reorder the variables, or select variables based on a certain condition. We looked at filter, one of the most amazing function there is in R, and we said it's used to filter observation from a data set. So while select works on rows, where select works on columns and variables, filter works on rows or observation. We looked at one very tiny but mighty independent function, which is known as distinct, and distinct is used to remove duplicate rows from a data set. Today we'll be looking at the dependent function, and we'll be able to understand why the mutate plays a key role in this category. So our 5 dependent function that we'll be looking at today is recode, if else, case underscore when, fct underscore relevel, and h category. Amazing. So if you notice, we looked at a function known as rename in our independent cleaning function, and also looked at the template. So rename and recode wants to look like brothers and sisters. So while rename is used to change variable names, column names, recode is used to change values. Recode is used to change values. So let's say, what are the values that will be in a gender variable, male and female? So recode is used to change those variables to a desired variable, desired value of interest, right? So recode is used to change the values in a variable to a desired value of interest, right? So we'll see how to use the recode. If else is used to make 2 groups, right? So it's used to categorize the values in a variable into 2 groups, right? And then we say we have also case when, and case when is as well used to create more than 2 groups. So case when is like is if else plus another group, right? So if else is just 2 groups. So if you are dealing with just 2 groups, you want to create 2 groups, a variable for just 2 groups, you use if else. If you need to create a variable for 3 groups, then you need case underscore when. Then we also looked at fct relevel, which is used to convert variables to factor, right? We've seen about data types. We've seen numbers, we've seen characters, we've seen factors, and then we've seen data type as well. And then the last function is what h categories is used to categorize numerical variable into groups or categories, right? So you can use to give categories 0 to 1, 1 to or 5 to 10, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, and the list goes on. So getting started with the recode function. The recode function is used to change values within a variable, as mentioned. So like we said, gender variable, the values in it would either be male or female. Outcome variable, the values can either be dead or alive. Marital status variable, The values could either be single, married, divorced, or widow. So recode is used to change those values. And what's the template for recode? Is datasets, then mutate. So this is a function we're looking at. So mutate. And we said this function, let me write it here. Mutate. This function is from the dplyr package. Sorry, my spelling. Mutate. This function is from the dplyr package. And basically the use of mutate is either to edit or to transform an existing column. So mutate does two things basically. Among the numerous things it does is that either wants to make a change in the existing column, or it wants to create a new column and make the change. Let's say, for example, our COVID clean data set. Let's say we want to change, for example, country. We want to change this GANA to Ghana. This, right? Want to make change. Want to make effect on this variable country. Mutate can either make the change in this variable, or it will create another variable name called maybe column2 or column new, and do the changes there and leave the existing column. So there are times when we will want to make the changes in the existing column. For example, if all you are changing is spelling errors, you make the changes in your existing column. But if you require a new variable, let's say from this age, we want age categories, young, middle age, and old. We cannot do it in this existing column because we'll lose our original age variable. We no longer have 10, 16, and all of that. It will be lost because we have transformed the column into another thing. So in order to keep this existing column, we'll have to create a new column. So mutate can help us create a new column, and then we can make the change. So we can have age in here still there in our data set, and then we'll have another variable known as age category. So we'll be looking at this briefly. So stay with me. So we're using the mutate for all our dependent function. So this is the template data set. We pipe it into mutate. Remember we said our dependent cleaning function always work inside of the new mutate. They are always nested. Look at it here. They are always nested inside of the mutate. So for example, in order to use recode, the template is data set, pipe it into mutate, and then you first of all ask yourself, do you want a new column or do you want to make the changes in the old column? So in cases where you need a new column, you do new column is equal to recode, and then in brackets, so the change function we're using, the cleaning function we're using is recode. So mutate new column is equal to the cleaning function this time around, which is what? Recode. And then in brackets, recode takes numerous arguments, but the first argument is what? The column you want to make the changes from. So this is from the old column, and then comma, you can have your old name, old value name, and then new value name. So this is for you making the changes, creating a new column and making the changes. In the case where you want to make the changes in the existing column, it will be data set. We pipe it into mutate. If you've not watched our videos on pipe operator, please do so. Pipe into mutate, and then we write this time around old column equal to the change cleaning function. What is the change function? What is the cleaning function we're using? Recode. Recode will take either, of course, it will always be the old column that will be here. That's what is in our data set. Old column. We can have the old name first. So remember when we're dealing with rename, we said rename we have to write new name, then new name equal to old name. But for recode, we will always write old name equal to new name. So the way I remember recode and rename is that recode has O, that means old name first. Rename has N, that means new name first. Very funny, but that's how I get to remember my codes, right? And join me in that. So name. So this is you creating for making the changes in your old column, in your existing column, in your data, your original column of your data set. And so we always want to do this in a case where it's just maybe spelling errors we just want to correct. Right? So let's look at a practical example. So let's change so let's do something different. We've already cleaned our gender. Let's look at our gender column. So let's say here our gender column is cleaned, everything is standardized. So let's say here we want to change um, the values here. So we want to change, let's use marital status. We want to change this married with double E to married. Then we want to change, yes, I think that's the only issue there. Great, that's the only issue there. So in order to do so, we will, yes, in order to do so, we'll be using the recode function. So what's our template? We said, so in order to run this again, I have to comment on this so that it doesn't really affect my flow of code. So I have to comment on this, Control Shift C, and then I come to my practice side. So change, so we say we want to change the married. This is what I want to change. Married, even married married in marital underscore status variable. We don't want to be saying married and married, one that is wrongly spelled. We want to change this to the standard, which is married. So in order to do so, we will first of all, our template says what? Data set. So in this, we'll ask ourselves, do we want the change in the existing column or do we want the change in the new column? Yes, in the existing column, because what we're trying to do is that we just want to correct spelling errors. In order to even confirm the values in a variable, we saw it during our data exploration. There's a function known as unique. So I want to run it in the console, unique. So when you run unique, unique, the data set is COVID underscore clean $sign. So marital status. So when we run this, to show us all the unique values in our marital status variable, and then we can see that something is wrong with this last one because it's spelling error. So that's what we want to change. In order to change it, we're going to use our template, which is the question we want to ask now is, do we want the change in our existing variable, or we want it in a new variable? In an existing variable, exactly, because it's just spelling errors, right? We don't need a new column for that. We just need to make the changes in the old column. So that right straight into it will be our COVID underscore our data set. We pipe it into what? Into mutate. We say that all of the dependent functions work on inside of a mutate. So we have this, and first thing we have said is that we want our changes to be in the old column. So our old column is what? Marital then equal to the change function. The change function recode as on open and close bracket, and then we want, so recode what? So the question is recode is asking you recode which of the variable. So you tell it marital status. That's the one that Recode knows. So marital status is comma. Then we said in Recode it is old name equal to new name. So our old name is what? Married. So in order to avoid mistakes, I'm just going to come here and copy this, okay, and then paste it here, then equal to married. So I will also want to see in a tabular form if my changes have been, corrected. So I'll pipe this also into a function known as tbl summary. Right, so it's a function from the GT summary package. It helps to tabulate your data set, and then you see how it will arrange it in a very beautiful way. So TBL summary has its open and close bracket. When we run, we're going to see our answer in, so we can see it in our third quadrant. See it, TBL summary. So just want to add something briefly here. Let me pipe it into bold labels. Bold labels, great. So I will run it so that I can see my variable names written out boldly. So this is epi number variable 1. So I want to go to marital status. So you can have divorced, married, single, widow. You can see that that particular married that had double A, double I, and double E is no longer here. So this is how we can use Recode to change values in a variable, right? So amazing. Let's move ahead. Let's look at if else. If else is used to categorize values in a variable into two groups. So if you want to just categorize into two groups, let's say in terms of age, you want to categorize into two groups like young and old. You want to categorize into dark and light. Just two groups, two group categorization. You use the if else. And then the if else template is datasets, pipe it into mutate. And then the question mutate we always want to ask is, do you want the change in a new column or do you want it in your old column, your existing column? So if you want the changes in your new column, you write new column first is equal to the change function is what? If else. If else has own open and close bracket. If else, the change function is happening always here is, so for if else we have the old column condition. So what do you want the old column to be? What's the condition you want for the transformation of the old column? So and then that's the first argument. The second argument is if that condition is met, what should we call it? If that condition is not met, what should we call it? So it's like we're saying from our age variable, we want age greater than 20. That's the condition. If that condition is met, that is yes, let's call it old. Like greater than 20, let's call it old, for example. If that condition is not met, if there are ages less than 20, we should call that condition, we should call that value what? Young. That's how if else works. For example, if you want to do another categorization like light and heavy from our weight, you can see that we want to make it the change in the new column quite okay. If else, our change function, and then the column condition is weight greater than 50 kg. Let's 50 because the variable is already in kg. So weight greater than 50. If that condition is met, let's call it heavy. If that condition is not met, let's call it light. This is how we use if else to to categorize. But let's try to categorize age variable into young adult and older adult. So we have our age variable here, age in years. So let's try to categorize into young adult and young adults and older adults. So in order to even know the entire what's the range of my age variable, I want to run a quick function known as range so that I can know how to make my categorization. So age, we want to, the data set is what? COVID clean. And we pipe it into, sorry, not pipe, use the $, and then age in years. So I want to see my range. So the lowest age is 10, the highest age is 66. So I can now see how to categorize my my so I would say let's try to categorize this time around into young and old instead of young adults, because we have age um about 10. So young and old. In order to do so, we go to our template is what? Data set. Our data set is what? COVID underscore clean. Pipe it into what? Mutate. You know what the mutate in biology actually is to change. So that's where they got the idea of using calling it a mutate function. So we want to ask the question: do you want the change in a new column or in an existing column? Since this is categorization, we don't want to lose our old column. We want to make the change in our in a newer columns. Our code structure will now look like, what's the new column that we want to call it? Let's call it h underscore or let's say, yeah, let's call it h category. The reason I'm afraid is because there's a function called h categories. Let's use h category this way. Then it's equal to, what's the change function? If else. So once the change should be where in done from our what's from our old column. And what's our old column name? H underscore years. So the condition we want to say is that h underscore years greater than 18, right? Because we all know that it's when you are greater than 18 years old that you are considered an adult, comma. So the first condition is, if that condition is yes, let's call it what? If it's not met, if it's no, call it what? Young. We understand. So when we run this, so again, I want to see my change in a tabular form. So I will just run it with the TBL summary. It's also into bold labels. When we run this, we are going to see our if there are changes. So here, so we created a new column, so we're going to see it at the end, so we can see it here as our H category. In order to even do this, we might not even want to run a TBL summary. We can run view. When we run view, we're going to say it here. So this is it. So our new column here, we have adult. Do we have any young? Do we have any young? Oh, okay, we have just one young. I think it's the person who was 10 years old. Yes, this is just the only person we have in our data set that is young. If you run this on a bar chart, it will look very, very skewed because young is an outlier. But we'll look at that when it comes to our amazing to see we've done two major functions now, recode and if else. Let's see how to use case underscore when. So this time around, maybe we want to categorize our variables into more than two groups this time around, but into three groups. Three groups. Right, so how do we do so? How do we do this? We pipe our data set into mutate as usual. Then the new column, we always want to ask, do we want the changes in a new column or in our existing column, our old column? Around our new column is equal to case underscore when, which is the change function that we're working with. So the condition, so we'll outline the conditions that we want. So our first condition is what? Second condition is what? And our third condition is what? When you outline these conditions, then you will use the logical operator called the true, right? Tilde NA. So for those for other things that do not, so this what this statement means, that for other values that do not meet this condition, leave them as NA, right? Leave them. Those that do not meet this condition, so leave them. Right, great. So in practice, let us um let us do the same thing. So let us categorize again our H um, column, our age variable, let's categorize it into young, middle age, and young. Right, since we have age of 10 years. So let's say it. So in order to do so, our template is still simple. We're using the COVID underscore clean, pipe it into mutate. So, like we're saying, we want to change in a new column. So the new column we want to make is, let's call it age. Let's call it new underscore age. So it's equal to, what's the change function? Case underscore when. So what's the first condition? First condition is what? Age in years less than 20, comma, age in years greater than or greater than and equal to 20. And we use the and sign, and age in years less than, let's use for 50. Let's say 50. Yes. Condition. Our third condition is age in years greater than 50. So these are conditions. So what should we call age in years less than 20? We want to call it, so we use a tilde function. Let's call them young. Then let's call this, call them middle age. I may be wrong. Middle age, right? Then let's call this one old. So this is supposed to be in quotation mark. So again, we want to see our change in a tabular form, so we'll use the view. Remember, we're not saving all of these changes, we're just exploring how to use it. So when we run this, great, we're going to see it as the last column. So old, new age category. So we can see we have old, we have middle age, we have old, we have middle age. We're going to have just one young, and that's that little boy of 10 years. So we can see it. I'm so excited how these cleaning functions are just simple, and then they can do wonderful things for your cleaning pipeline. So we can see that we've created new column called new age category using the case, you know, case underscore when. So it's amazing, amazing. Let's now look at one more beautiful cleaning, dependent cleaning function, which is called FCT reliable. Now, when we treated data type, we talked about the fact that data types will have character, numbers, factors, and data type. And factors are also called ordinal categorical variables. These are variables or values or data that exist in levels. They exist in levels. For example, when we check our data set, when we check marital status, we're going to see that it's arranged alphabetically: divorced, married, single, widowed, right? Alphabetically, but we don't want it to appear in our graph like this. We don't want it to start alphabetically, because that's not the logical order. The logical order is single, married, divorced, and widowed. So in order to arrange that thing, arrange those values in an ordered way, we have to use the function called FCT reliable, and this FCT stands for factor. So factor reliable. The template is for data set, pipe it into mutate, variable name, then the change function, variable name, the change function, right? And then, so do we want, again, this variable name we're saying, do we want the change to be, can even say it here as new column, new underscore column, right? New underscore, right? Because we're asking the same question. We want the change, do we want to relevel in a new column, or do we want to relevel in the existing column? So let's reorder the values in the marital status variable. In order to do so, the template is the same thing as what our template is, what our data set is, what COVID underscore clean. We pipe it into mutate, and then when we're done, we, I like doing this because we're nesting everything inside of the mutate. So what I'll change it to actually happen in the what, in the existing column, which is called marital status. And what's the change function? fct level underscore relevel. So you want, what's the column we want? Of course, it's the same column, marital. So how do we want the values to appear? We want to first of all see single single mark. We want to see single, then we want to say married, then we want to say divorced, and we want to say, getting it, widowed. Yes, 1 2 3 4. Then let's run our pipe and then view. When we do this, so instead of running our pipe, let's run the tbl summary. So let's see how it will be arranged in tabular form. So tbl underscore summary. If you notice, while we're trying to do this cleaning function, I've also introduced new functions to you as well. So that's how it is. So you've not just learned 10 functions today, you've learned about 15 to 20 bold labels. So when I run this, I'm going to load, and then when it's ready, I'm going to go down to my marital status and see the changes. Right. So remember that the other time we didn't save our cleaning pipeline, but you can see now that it has been arranged single, married, divorce, widowed. So if we had done this particular level with the clean data set, we will not have this married in check. So that's how the FCT level work. The last one we want to look at is what is age category. So in case we want to create age ranges, numerical variables, we want to say age ranges of 10 to 15, 20, 15 to, and all of that. So what we do is that we use the function called age categories. This function was specifically designed to calculate age ranges, but it can also be used to calculate ranges for, for other things like weights, anything that is numerical entirely. So we can use it here for weight. So let's see the range for weights. So the range COVID clean. Also introduce a very new function called range. It's also an exploring function. So I want to see my range for my weights. 44 to 73. Right, so we want to categorize this. So how do we do it? We do our dataset pipe into mutate as usual. Then we have new column. It's the same question. Do you want to change the new column on in our existing column? We always want, if it's transformation, want it in a new column. So then the change function is what? Categories. Then we want, of course, to be our old column. Then we have introduced a function known as breakers. Then equal to, this C is called a concatenation function or combine function, which is combine vectors of. So, and then one of the key things you need to understand is that in order to categorize based on ranges, you only write the numbers beginning each of the categories. If I want to categorize from 1 to 30, 31 to 60, 60 and above, I will only come and write 1 comma 31 comma 60, right? This is how it works. So let's try to categorize the age in years into this 1 to 30, 31 to 60, and let's say 1 to 30, 31 to 50, 50, and then 51. So in order to do so, the function to use is what? COVID underscore clean, pipe it into what? Mutate. Great. We want a new column. And what's a new column? Let's say age range. You can call it anything though, but let's call it age range. Equal to, change function is age underscore categories. Age underscore, right? And then of course it will be in our age in years. So breakers equal to C. Then of course it's a function, so it has its open and close bracket. So you write only the numbers beginning the categories. So let's say 1 comma 1 comma 51, right? And then we're done. So when I run this, so let me run pipe it into view so that we can see it in tabular form. So you can see for ages that are greater than 51, you can see 51 and 51 plus, and see we have 31 to 50. Those are four within that range. 1 to 30, 31 to 50, 1 to 30. This is how we can now start transforming. So right now we've looked at 5 new dependent function and in all, right? So what I want to do henceforth now is to clean this entire data set that we have in the next few minutes.